trespass against us, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
As you all are aware, we typically like to give a mid-year review just to kind of let you know how things are going with the group health plan. Obviously, you all are what's called a fully insured plan through Blue Cross Blue Shield of Louisiana. We have some handouts for you, and basically there are 3 pages. We're going to go to the last page. The second page, by the way, it and the third are kind of one and the same. One just illustrated in a bar graph versus the other with all the numbers, and I prefer the last page. So the good news would be at the top section, you've got your current last 12 months of premium versus claims, and then at the bottom section is the prior 12. So we're kind of giving you a snapshot of year over year. And if you look in the very last column, you'll see for the last 12 months, there's been $2,531,000 in a claim, sorry, $3,599,000 against $2,603,000. You were running at 138% claim loss ratio. So we actually have improved over the last 12 months, year over year. I did want to indicate, if you continue to run at this 90%, you are likely still going to get an increase at the upcoming renewal 6 months from now. But, I wouldn't anticipate. Last year, we got 7.8% with the loss ratio as bad as it was. So things do appear to be improving. I've done some analysis, not shown here, but basically you all are no different than any other group. You've got some, basically 20% of the members account for roughly 70% of the claims. And that's not uncommon in any group. So, be happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Looks a lot better from last year.
It does, certainly does. All right, well, appreciate your time, and we appreciate your business.
Thank you, sir.
Is it ready for me already?
Yeah, man, we got nothing else on the agenda, so we're
Okay.
ready for you.
One thing, I'm not sure how many people are aware, but Senator Abraham was going to sponsor a bill to limit access to certain beaches, vehicle access. I think Senator Abraham has since decided to withdraw the bill. So we don't have any discussion on that other than the fact that letting you know that there was a bill and they were trying to restrict access because people were supposedly on the dunes and different things, but it would hinder access to these beaches. These beaches are 12 miles long, only accessible from one end. So he since pulled that bill. The second thing that I have is on a little more somber note. I'm sure everybody's aware of the drownings that happened at Long Beach last week, where a mother and her 2 young daughters drowned, caught in a tow in a current. And my heart goes out to the family. I know they started a GoFundMe page and everything. They were from Mississippi. They did not, weren't residents of the area, but they had frequented the area. Anyway, the point that I wanted to bring up is that we need to see what we can do to limit that happening again. And I'd like for the jury to consider working with the Beach District to fund larger signs that warn people of rip currents and bad times for swimming, and not just on the beaches, but anywhere. If it's in the river, when the good northers blow and the river currents are horrible, people could drown. And there are a lot of people who visit our area who go swimming who are not from here, who do not know about these things. So if we could assist our beach districts, we already fund them But I think this might be a special funding opportunity for us to assist them in the signs, and I'm gonna ask the jury support on that. Does anybody else have anything on the sign that want us, from the staff?
No, we did, order some smaller signs that we had placed last year on Rutherford Beach, because we were having the same issues with riptides between the breakwaters. And so we did order those smaller ones, but absolutely, if the jury wants to allocate funds to the beachfront district, both 1 and 2, fund a larger, more permanent sign with a little bit more verbiage on it, a stricter warning than just our small little white ones with red writing, then we'd certainly be able to help and assist the beachfront district in ordering them and installing them.
Why don't you get, estimates of what it's gonna cost
Okay.
before we,
Mr.
I don't mind doing it, but I'd like to know what it's gonna
Yeah,
cost.
signage is not that expensive, but I think, it'd be within reason.
Yeah.
I think, Mr. Craig Broussard's got has a suggestion as well. He's with the beach board, in Holly Beach. So, you want?
Yeah, one of the suggestions came up, during the meeting. I think it has some warrant. One of the, some of the complaints are people don't read signs, which is true. And you're never gonna know that you saved a life from somebody reading that sign. They, that would have passed away if you didn't have that sign. So I know you don't get a lot of rewards from putting the signs up, but I think the signs are necessary. But on the other hand, for the people that don't read the signs, that look for visuals, there was a suggestion to put a memorial there at the Long Beach entrance. And, whether I think people look at visuals, do look at it. And if you look at a tombstone there, to commemorate or to recognize the deaths, the loss of life at these beaches, I think that may spur someone to be more careful, know that other people have been here and lost their life. So maybe I need to pay closer attention. Just a suggestion. I looked at this morning on the websites about what it would cost for like a tombstone or something to put out there with the signage, and it looks like it's gonna be about $5,000. So, any questions?
Great idea, thank you.
I guess we get some prices on put, some kind of billboard out there or something, and, just see what it would cost.
Also, guys, I wanna further
Got his hand up.
I want to further say that that's identified, that area, but there are other areas that aren't identified. So if there's anything, not even on the beach, maybe where the Grand Chenier Park is on the river, where the boat landing is in Grand Lake, where people could get caught in a current, we could put these signs. Signs are cheap.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that, but we got so much water here, we'd have to have a sign everywhere. I mean, and I know saving one life is a big thing, but I lived here all my life, and I didn't go jump in water that, if I go to Mississippi, I don't go jump in that beach and not be aware of the things that are going on.
Right, I understand.
I mean, it's a pity thing.
Now, the beach district's already putting out signs. They're
Yeah.
smaller signs, but, gonna be in between these signs, so the more signage is not gonna hurt anything if it.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll help.
All right, I got
He's got something he wants to say. One quick thing, besides signage, we're gonna be putting out posters at all the grocery stores and such, and they're gonna be making pamphlets for all the rentals, for the new people that are coming in, renting, RVs or houses. So that'll be available to everyone as well, and that's gonna be done through the beachfront development.
And one last note, so everybody knows, March is the worst time of the year for currents on the beach. The high winds, high tides of March cause the currents to be worse than any other time of the year. Not to say they're not bad at all times, but they're worse right now.
Joe, we got one more comment.
yes, sir,
Yeah, can I approach?
yeah.
Good morning, Dr. Dupke, Cameron Corner. Yeah, this is still a open death investigation, so I'm going to be limited on what I can say. But to make some comments that I've heard here today, and what I'm hearing on the internet, basically though, what we can summarize, we had a family of 5 come to our beach. 4 of them went in the water. 3 of them drowned. 1 was a near drowning that we were able to resuscitate. I can't speak in detail right now, obviously, but I can refer back to Rutherford Beach and the problems we had there with our breakers. I've been living on Rutherford Beach 25 years. Never, ever had we had a near drowning or even a drowning to my recollection until the breakers went in. The problem we have with the breakers, and I think is the cause of the issues we have on Rutherford Beach. Last year, you may or may not know, we had a total of 17 near drownings. We had 12 family friend members at one time. What we see happening, and again, I know rip current, rip tide has been mentioned. That may not be all of it. What we feel is happening, using the experience we had from Rutherford Beach, is that 2 issues with these stones. At the end of the stones, where the stones end or where there's an opening on Rutherford Beach, I think we have 2 or 3 openings, 1.5 miles of stones. Especially at high tides, there's a significant outcurrent around the ends of the stone. That is basically a man-made rip current. And we know we've had a couple of cases. I've talked to a 64-year-old gentleman that actually got caught in it, and then one family had to come save him out. That's issue number 1. So we have a man-made, if you will, because of the stone, we have a man-made rip tide. But the second issue, where most of the problems we've had on Rutherford Beach, and it may project up whenever we have stones, it's not the ends. Individuals are either walking on the stones or getting on the Gulf side of the stones. And that plays a prominent part in drowning, because what occurs, if you've seen, especially at high tide with a south wind, and again this past weekend, high tide, south wind, we had waves crashing over the stones. You get on the opposite side, the Gulf side of those rocks, and you try to balance yourself. The waves wash you into the rocks, you lose your balance. When the waves wash into the rock, there's an undercurrent there too. If you actually walk on that side, the Gulf side of the breakers, it's actually deeper because it's been washed out. Great for speck fishing, but not good for life living. So the issue, as it looks from my perspective, in order to stop future near drownings or drownings, you have to keep people off the rocks. They cannot go on the rocks. They cannot be near the rocks. Once you get on that Gulf side, and as we experience, the only reason we don't have drownings on Rutherford Beach, on a weekend we may have 80, 90, 100 cars. We may have enough people to rescue, as we did with the 17, in fact the 12 people that went in. Deputy Whittington, one of our law enforcement folks, was able to save most of them. But over on the beach this weekend, we had a family of 5. No one else was around on the beach. We had mom go in the water, a 9-year-old go in the water, a 5-year-old go in the water, a 6-year-old go in the water. I won't go into further details, but again, we got to keep them off the rocks. So whatever signage you need, you better keep them off the rocks.
I agree with you. There's no reason for them to be on the rock.
And you know, we have, besides drownings, we had, I tell you, we've had multiple lacerations, fallings, abrasions, and these folks, when you get hit against those rocks, you're abrased, you're bruised, you're lacerated. So you have to do something to keep them off the rocks, whichever way you can. Thank you.
All right, thank you, thank you. Thank you. All right. Anything else about the rocks? Jetty? All right, I got a green card from David Sorrell. Wants to talk about item D, the permit for saltwater revival oyster company. Item D.
Morning.
Good morning, sir.
My name is David Sorrells. I'm the founder of Salt Revival Oyster Company. And I was asked to come here today and explain to you, I guess you have a coastal use permit, and you want me to explain my intentions with that. So basically, Salt Revival Oyster Company, we plan to fully take advantage of the Cameron Oyster Park that will be going north of East Fork Pass. In the meantime, I'm familiar with the industry, so I'm just trying to set my foundation and mitigate my risk. In doing so, kind of teaming up, or not teaming up is not the right word, I was able to secure some of Henry McCall's property over there to help with my infrastructure of this business. And in the process, we began to look at his flats back there in the area. And I began to research those areas to see how conducive that would be to raise oysters in. I was answered really quickly when I got out of my boat and waded through oysters and oysters and oysters and oysters. So as far as salinity levels and depth and water bottom, it's a great area. So what I am trying to do, one of the biggest problems we have in oyster farming is seed availability. There are some hatcheries here in Louisiana, one in particular that has been very successful in pushing seed out every year. There's some other hatcheries along the Gulf Coast that also can step in and help. But this project really is to help keep the constant flow of product. My intention is to set up a nursery for oysters, but then the next step would be to put them out in those flats to grow. That water is private, so it has not been classified. It is not polluted. It is not anything. It's just unclassified. That being said, I could potentially go ahead with this project until the oysters are about an inch and then transfer them or relay them to the Cameron Park. However, again, this is just with my experience and wanting to keep a constant product, not just to local restaurants and local suppliers, but others, is to have a grow out area there. So I can take oysters from seed and nursery area to a grow out area in those flats. And then the last step would be before harvest, I would need to relay those over to the Cameron Park, and they would need to sit there for 2 weeks before they could be harvested, and that's just state regulations. So that's the gist of this project and what I'm trying to do, and this is all obviously just asking permission to do this. Be
So-
happy to, go ahead.
So as long as you put them back in the
Yes, sir.
salt water or the lake itself for 2 weeks, they considered
Yes, sir.
clean or whatever by the
Yes, sir.
Department of Health?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And that being said, there's nothing to say that they're not clean. Right. They are. It's just
That's already been qualified.
Yeah, right. The park and everything that the Port Authority and you guys have done here in this parish. Why would I mess with that? You guys have done the legwork for me, so I'd be happy to look at something else down the road, but baby steps.
But, you own part of that farm that's in the lake?
No, sir.
Are you gonna have you saying you wanna take it, you gotta put them out there for 2 weeks, so where you gonna put them at?
In the Cameron Parish Oyster Park.
Yeah, but ain't that gonna be filled up with the other ain't that part of the?
No, he would have a lease in the park.
Yeah.
He would have one
I
of the
would be one
15
of-
leases.
One of the tenants in the park. I would be one of the tenants in the park already.
So that takes away from our locals.
No, no, no.
No,
No,
they
no, no, no,
don't even know the program.
no, no.
Hey, let Kim explain, some of you may be familiar with what we've got going, the port has, so Kim just needs to.
So there are 15 leases available, and we went through the Sea Grant program for a grant, which has nothing to do with who can be in the park. There's 15 2-acre plots in the park. There was only 6 grants available. Those 6 grants will be in there, and then that leaves 9 leases left. David can lease one of the plots, the 2-acre plots, and the two can work together easily. No.
Okay,
I don't think they was all taken far anyway when they went out. They still had some available.
I don't know.
What, somewhat?
The leases.
No, yeah, we still have 9 available leases, so,
You want one?
I thought they were all filled.
no, not all filled.
No, people didn't want.
We only had 10 applications go in, and David Sense is the only one that's come to me, and besides those 6 that got leases, is the only one that has come to me and said, I didn't get a grant, but I am going to pay for a lease.
Yeah, the ones that's taken wanted the grant.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
that-
only 6 taken
Ones
for
that's
sure.
gonna, they're the ones that's gonna have everything paid for.
Not everything, no.
Well, okay,
It'll be enough money for equipment,
Okay, well,
to
they're
get
gonna
started.
get money to start up.
yes.
Yeah.
That'd be a better one.
Okay,
Well, all those are filled up.
I heard people call and said, okay, this is a
What
different
they called
section.
and said, they asked, there was a deadline on the application for the Sea Grant money. And they called my office after the deadline for the Sea Grant money. That does not mean those people cannot still apply for a lease in the park.
They just don't get the money.
They just don't get the $45,000 grant money.
Grant put in 100%.
Huh?
Yeah, they gotta pay.
Yeah,
Out of their pocket.
There was only 6 leases. 10 applications went in. Several people called my office after talking to different jurors after the deadline for those leases ended. They were all told they still had the opportunity to lease a plot when we began leasing.
But to get started.
Still have a question, Curtis?
No, I don't have a question.
No, I went and talked to him out there and I seen what he was doing, it's pretty neat, if somebody would go check it out.
He spent a lot of time doing research.
So this is not gonna interfere or cause hardship to any of the other ones that are leasing out? There's not gonna be any issues?
Absolutely not. So,
He's inside, he's on T-Boy's property, and that's what he wants us to approve, where he can start growing the little oysters on Mr. McCall's property. At the end, he has to put them on that lease to be able to sell it, am I right?
yes, sir.
But you're gonna sell seed too.
Yeah.
I
And-
can,
and-
and that's where this is all leading to, right?
And ain't that gonna benefit the people that's out on those?
That's why I'm doing this. So, just to touch on a couple other things. This is not new. I've been on this road for 5 years. And I started a restaurant in Lake Charles that's still up and running, it's still going. And it was when I opened that restaurant that I began to source as much local food as I could, because that is hugely important for restaurants to do that. Not just from the quality of food, but supporting your local communities. When I could not get the seafood and things I was looking for, I started to research why. This is not a Cameron Parish issue, this is a worldwide issue. We are trying to figure out more sustainable ways to put any kind of food source on our table and feed the world. So I began researching 5+ years ago that's when I reached out to Claire Marceau, who was still here. And I said, Claire, she was familiar with who I was because of the restaurant. And I said, hey, this is an industry that we should look into here. Why is this not going on? And so that began us talking with Ryan, Abraham, Patrick Banks. We got a Zoom call with everybody we could, and we said, what can we do here? That, to me, really pushed. I know that this had been talked about for 4 or 5 years. So if it's any consolation, what I am doing now is for everyone in Cameron Parish, because seed is hard to get. I kept pushing for down here. And the reason I did is because in the discussions and research that I saw, John Supan, who was at LSU and started the hatchery at LSU, we had a phone conversation. He said, David, one of the best oysters I've ever eaten in my life came out of Oyster Hawaii in Cameron Parish. He's never forgotten that. So I'm like, why aren't we doing this? It's good for the community, more so it's better for our ecosystem. The benefits of oysters for our ecosystems are tenfold. So yes, there's a business here, but there's a lot bigger picture. Whether it's our ecosystem, our waters, restoring our oyster beds, ecotourism, there's all kinds of things that will spawn off this, but we have to have the infrastructure. It's one thing they lack in Grand Isle. I spent much time down in Grand Isle working with all those farmers that don't have infrastructure. That's what I'm trying to put on McCall's property. And yes, if I can have seed, if I can have oysters, then that will benefit everyone else. It's important to me to all the oyster farmers in this park to work together as a group. To give you an example, the farmers in Grand Isle Oyster Park, one of the farmers also sells equipment, and he just received a 40-foot container of oyster growing equipment yesterday. And all the farmers, all of them, showed up to help unload, They work together. I don't know if that will happen in Cameron, but it needs to. It needs to. That's my intention. So,
It's always important for this jury to ask as many questions as possible.
Yes, sir.
We don't want 40 horsemen to walk in through them doors right there for something we did and we didn't get enough information on.
Sure.
sure.
I got a question. Sounds good, man, appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
But I know the oyster fishermen now have an issue with the mussels out here up on the oysters. Do you have any, with your expertise on, getting those mussels off them oysters, like dragging the dredges, or what would it take to, on the existing oysters right now, they're full of mussels, how?
No, I don't. And so, I mean, you know, when you're talking about wild oysters.
Right.
So I'd like to, the beautiful thing about raising oysters in bags is they're floating on the surface.
You don't have to worry about that?
You don't have to worry about that. So you do get crabs, you do get some bigginows, you do get some things like that in there, and it's just, it's a matter of maintenance. So, and that's the other thing with this industry. This is not let me put oysters in the bags and leave them there for a year and I'll go get them. No, I mean, it's constant maintenance. These are boutique oysters. These are developed for a half shell market. These are not shucked and put in containers. These are just it's a different.
The cup oyster?
Yes, sir. So what we do is we grow them and then we spend a lot of time defouling them. Obviously our waters and our heat and everything else, we get a lot of fouling. So we don't want that. We want them to grow clean. And so we'll take them out and we'll tumble them to a stainless steel tube. That helps shape them, breaks off their shells so they grow deep and not this way. There's all kind. If any of you are interested, I'd be happy to come back down and sit with you guys and tell you everything I know.
May I say something, by the way? I wanted to mention, I used to be one of the owners of 121 Restaurant in Lake Charles when Dave came to town. And Dave came to work at the restaurant. Just wanted you all to know this man's one of the finest chefs you'll ever meet in your life. He worked at the French Laundry in Napa Valley. He doesn't tell a lot of people that. That's the #1 restaurant in the entire country, and he made 121 a lot of what it is today. But so if he gets the opportunity, you might want to ask him to cook for you. I would recommend that. So anyway, just wanted you to know how talented a guy he is. So, thank you.
Sounds
Did
good.
not pay him.
Sounds good, man.
Thank you for your
Thank you for coming.
Any more questions? Before we go any further, there's a couple of people I'd like to recognize in the audience. One of them is Delia Sanders. She's retired from the library. She's got 29 or 30 years of service. Stand up, Delia. Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce the person who's going to be taking her place, Miss Jolie Boudreaux. Would you stand up, Jolie? All right. Y'all want to review the agenda? And that's all we got left.
I got one question. Number 8, Shane, it'd be for you. We have any tractors that would fit that beach grader? We might want to pull it out of this if we had
We're
this.
not selling nothing, Mr. Sonny. We do this every year, so we don't have to go to y'all before we do sell.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
all right.
Number 13, the resolution to support and expedite funding and appropriate any for the, any necessary supplemental funds. What's this about for the stage for the pontoon bridge in Round Lake?
So we're gonna provide a resolution of support to Representative Boyott to present during the session. There is funding allocated in their capital improvement plan. DOTD, we wanna make sure that this is prioritized and the funding is expedited. And so that he's gonna try to be creative through capital outlay and with the new Secretary of DOTD to make sure that, this takes top priority out of all of the other projects in the region.
Is this to repair the bridge or to replace it with a fixed span bridge?
To repair right now and to look at alternative options of fixed span.
And sometimes, fixing pontoons, we're gonna always have a problem. We should be pushing for that fixed span bridge,
That would be,
It could be both.
that would have to be something like the Gibson.
like Gibbstown.
Yeah.
But that place is growing, that's a big, lot of people in that area.
Yes.
Good spot for a bridge. And we wouldn't have all these problems all the time.
What's number 17, authority to advertise for inspector CBO?
So, Mr. Miles Abear is getting to the end of his tenure with us. He is set to retire January. He'd like to take, the last few months of his employment off. He has a lot of accumulated annual leave and grandfather leave that instead of just getting paid for it when he retires, he would just take it as annual leave. So, best case scenario, we might not have him past September, October. So we want to go ahead and start looking for a replacement for Mr. Miles, hire someone ideally that's already certified to be a CBO, and if they aren't, then hire someone to come in and give them a fast track 6-month probationary period to see if they can get certified. And if they can't, then we'll let them go. They'll sign an employment contract, but we have to get someone else in place to.
Didn't we think about contracting some of that, if we come to that point?
So we have a lot of options on the table. Right now, we are working toward an agreement with Calcasieu Parish Police Jury where they do a lot of plan reviews and inspections as needed, and they charge us for it. We also could get a quote to outsource it to a third party. The only thing about outsourcing it to a third party is every parish that we've spoken to that have that contract, they do not like it. It's a last resort. They don't have anyone on staff, either they don't have the funding to pay someone in-house to do it, or they just don't have anyone qualified that apply for the job. So that's their last resort, is outsourcing it. So we'd like to try to fill the department with our community members. We feel like we have a lot of talented community members that could definitely fill this position, and we still have Randy Thomas. He is a certified CBO, so he will be your next CBO after Miles' retirement, but he's in drop, so he has 3 years left.
Well, can you tell the camera with the CBO?
Certified, the chief building code official, and they do everything. They approve all of the building plans. They can inspect anything. They are an appointed position by the jury, and we are required by law to have someone appointed from our parish. It doesn't have to be a staff member. It can be a third-party person, but we do have to have someone fill that position.
Okay, that's our coastal zone?
Yes. She's doing coastal affairs.
Yeah.
And then you do have to have an appointed floodplain manager. That's not quite as on the hierarchy of what you have to have. Anyone can serve as a floodplain manager. Now, as happens, we do have a few staff members who are certified floodplain managers. So we feel Robin Rouse is in the crowd. She's one of them. Kara also has that certification. So we think we have that designation covered, but the CBO, we just need a permanent solution. Randy Thomas is only going to get us a temporary 3-year
So
fix
we have
for
time.
Miles. We
Do
need
we
a
have
permanent.
anybody in-house that's moving up? We got 3 years to do this, we can train somebody?
We advertised first about 9 months ago for in-house transfers. No one was interested except for one. We do have, which was Wesley Kibido. He is certified in electrical. He is working on getting some other certifications. But again, he's not a permanent solution. He's getting to the end of 30 years of employment with us as well. So we really need to start looking more long-term and not just temporary solutions. We want to get someone that can spend the next 10, 15 years with us to serve in this role.
Any more questions?
Yeah,
Wes?
she knows it's coming. That word's over with.
The lights,
Yeah.
the purchase order was issued, the contract was
Tell you what,
signed,
this
he
is what I'd
ordered
rather
the
have.
lights.
I'd rather have next month a, list of all the projects out in the fields for as fire stations, parish barns, all that, a review
Okay.
put together, estimate of when they're gonna get built back, what's holding them up, is it insurance, is it FEMA, are we waiting on rec centers, all of that. I've been to the ball field, you can tell your personnel that it's dry. They can back a truck anywhere around there, I'm pretty confident in that. They won't need mats. So let's get the lights put up.
Yes, sir.
Waited long enough.
They were ordered, we're waiting on them to be delivered to the site to be installed.
I've been doing this for 4 months.
I know, Mr. Lane. Are the temporary light plants working?
I don't have
out
a
for
clue.
now?
I don't have a clue.
Okay.
They haven't even used them yet.
They haven't.
It's not the point. The point is, we allocated money to put lights out there. Let's get the lights put out there.
Who's gonna install that? Is that,
I don't care who installs it.
who is?
I want lights on the field.
It'll be third party.
It's a contractor we hired. We signed a
Yeah.
contract with them. It was, $87,000.
I think Randy said it was just hard getting somebody to come out there to install them. Is that, am I right?
Yeah, they've ordered the lights. We had to do 3 quotes, and so they have the contract, he has the money, everything's ordered. We're really just waiting on the contractor now. But the estimated
2 months
complete
ago, we
date's
was waiting
April
on
14th.
weather.
It's gonna rain again
Duval
Friday, so
Electric
we're
is
waiting on
the
weather again, no problem.
So Duval Electric's the contractor, April 14th is the estimated completion date. And then I'd be happy to provide you an update on any, all the buildings right now.
Grand Lake
if you're ready.
Parish Barn. Where's
Grand-
that at?
Grand Lake Parish Barn is, the bid schedule has been set, they're gonna start advertising. We should be ready to accept those bids at the latest April. We have bid openings for the courthouse and the jail scheduled for tomorrow.
I thought we was gonna try to move that dirt from the back to the front.
They
Help out
were,
with that.
but it was gonna interfere with the construction of the barn, and in the construction of the barn, the dirt work and foundation is included. So we're gonna go ahead and let them build the barn and then do the dirt work after and elevate the road after, so the contractor doesn't tear up the road. That'll be ready. The Grantineer Fire Station is under construction. That contract was signed to fix it. The Cameron Fire Station as well is under construction. The lights at the East Annex, West Annex Courthouse and jail have all been there. I think you see them out there working right now. They are replacing all the electrical and the lighting. That should be finished by the end of this month. Like I said, courthouse and jail, bid openings are tomorrow. You'll have that on your agenda to accept bids in April. OEP Pavilion is on the agenda today. Those bids came in extremely high. We had a budget for the total at $600,000 and the bids came in close to $900,000. So you guys are gonna have to decide if you wanna reject the bids because they're over budget or allocate general fund dollars to cover the construction.
What building is that?
OEP Pavilion next to Chesson.
Just for pavilion?
To replace the pavilion, we have to lay, we have to go in and elevate the slab 6 inches, because mosquito control was gonna close in a section of it, and they were gonna pay for it to store all their chemicals and do their chemical mixing there. Well, because we were closing in a section of the pavilion, now that kicks it into a different enforcement. It has to meet the required elevation, and it was 6 inches too short, so we have to elevate the slab to the 6 inches and then put the pavilion back up. And then the mosquito control, they had a $250,000 budget to close in their section, which that section came in under budget. What came in over budget was just the slab and the pavilion. That came in,
That's triple of what it actually costs.
yes.
And I'm building one right now.
So,
And I'm not doing it myself,
so question, if mosquito control does not do their part, do we still have to raise the bill?
No,
Good question, maybe we need to find another place to put the mosquito stuff.
Maybe do it afterwards.
They have a place here.
but I mean, the slab, the 6 inches
I don't
slab
mind
is
having
not
one over
really
there,
a
but I
lot
just
of
don't
the
think
extra
it'd be
cost
that
of the
expensive
metal
to
building.
build.
Or they gonna just put rebar, I guess, on it, built into that slab and pour 6 inches.
Yeah, no, the slab wasn't that, that's not a big percentage of the cost. The highest part of the bid was just the metal building itself and erecting the building, the labor.
Is this just an open building?
This is a big.
$900,000?
It was, yeah.
Gee,
Our own-
are we, is
We
this
had
FEMA
three-
related?
Yes, FEMA was gonna pay for some, but FEMA's cost estimate was 300,000, and our insurance company gave us 96,000.
What about the cost? It should have been. It should have been.
Right,
How big is
so
that building?
we,
70 by 60 by 100?
I can look, I don't know that off the top of my head, Mr. Thomas, but
But anyhow,
It's,
if we need to reject something.
you can reject it, and we had 3 bidders, and the lowest bid, the qualified lowest bidder was, from out of town, out of Madisonville, and so, you know, you don't have any local contractors bidding on this work. And I think that's kind of the issue. We had a few local guys interested, but no one actually submitted a bid packet, so, it's people from out of town, including travel and staging, and so it was base bid $636,726, and then the mosquito control portion was $217,572, which would be a total bid of $854,000.
And how big is the building?
You'll try to, it's, I'll have to look at the building plans, I
Not
don't
that
know
big.
off the top of my, you remember Danny?
Go back and revisit.
No, that's totally out of
Danny,
range. That's just.
why'd you tell about the bid that you handed, the guy was ineligible? Tell him what that bid was, and there was a technical, he got.
Yeah, so the only local bidder was, a local contractor we've done business before, and he didn't acknowledge the 4th addenda, which is required, and so his bid had to be, rejected, because he wasn't a qualified bidder. He didn't follow the bid.
We could
so-
we
This
could
needs to
reject.
go back
That
out.
bid was
Yeah.
under
That's too
$400,000.
much, that's too much.
Under
money.
what?
It was under $400,000.
See,
That's too much money. I mean, people are gonna bid on stuff, the out of towners. They don't really need to work, so they're gonna raise the prices up. You never get the building built. It's all a big
I mean,
problem.
you got insurance with that.
Yeah,
You want whatever they do.
that's it.
There's a couple of places, don't
Where's
look
that
at
at?
the papers, don't look at Carroll Pilot.
Okay.
No, just reject that.
They had, there's a couple
Right.
things about it.
Yeah, that's on
That's
the
a-
agenda today.
That's 18, the OET.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The,
We ain't got, we ain't got the gold mine yet.
Huh?
That's a shame.
Any other questions about the agenda?
Got the shaft carved out, but we ain't got the gold mine.
Any other questions? Katie, you got anything else?
I think everything else is gonna be covered in executive session.
All right,
Move to adjourn.
we're gonna adjourn and, be back at 11 o'clock for a special meeting.